All right, Bell Tire live, ready to go. Here we go, back in Canada, Toronto, Leaside, Bell Tire here. On ice for Bell Tire is Helena, Hewer, Agbe, Clemens, and the Flanagan starting out for Bell Tire. 15 minutes on the clock. We're actually down to 14:36. Mackenzie Flanagan going up to Hewer, getting it sipped into the zone, chased down by Clemens. Clemens going hard into the corner. Delayed offsides being called. And switching in for Bell Tire now is Paolucci. Looks like we might have a 16 playing with us. I got to figure out who that is. But now in defense for Bell Tire is going to be Bowman and Martin, Paolucci, Kazarowski, and Evans. Evans, number 6 for Bell Tire. All right, Toronto into the neutral zone, gaining the Bell Tire zone. Offsides being called to stop play. Drummed in net for Bell Tire. On ice now is Cruciano, Hewer, Agbe, Martin, Bowman. Puck in neutral. Toronto going into the slot, defended by Martin, pushed wide into the corner. Now behind the net, Martin goes hard, sending her into the corner with some help from Hewer. Hewer now tripped up on the play, going to the side of the net. Bowman gets her stick on it, wrap around attempt by Toronto, cleared out by Martin and Cruciano. Cruciano now with some room to work, up through neutral, chipping it off the wall, and is shoved into the wall. No penalty for interference there. Picked up by Agbe. Agbe sliding back to Cruciano. Flanagan's back out on defense for Bell Tire. Leaside gaining possession, going up through neutral and gaining the zone. And that puck retrieved by Mackenzie back in her own D zone. Sliding up the wall is Cruciano, getting it to Hewer. Hewer trying to get it across to Kazarowski. Hewer dumps it in behind the new Toronto net. And now Toronto with possession. Clemens coming in on a change for Bell Tire along with Paolucci. Paolucci picking that puck up just before it exits the zone. Clemens hit from behind down to the ice. Toronto gaining possession and making their way into the Bell Tire zone. Now Paolucci at the half wall. Paolucci coming across ice. Now taking center ice. Going to give what Toronto gives her. Take what Toronto gives her. And Toronto sending that back into the zone. This is going to be picked up by Martin behind her own net. Going up to Clemens. Clemens over to Paolucci. And Paolucci now center ice. Grabbing it, sending it up to, looks like another 16. Got to figure that's King. King number 12. That puck slid across to Martin. Martin making a quick break. Sliding it up ice. Going into the Toronto zone. Going to get it behind the Toronto net. Toronto sending it around. Picked up by King. King trying to shove it back in. Gets intercepted by Toronto. And down ice it goes. Picked up now by King in her own zone. King behind the Bell Tire net. Toronto with possession behind the Bell Tire net. Sending it out to the dot. And gloved by Rund. 11:24 on the clock. 0-0 to score in this first period. Toronto and the face-off, and coming out with that puck is, it looks like, Flanagan. It's sent back into the Bell Tire zone. Flanagan taking it around up to Hewer. Hewer to Audrey. Audrey with a break here. Audrey making the turn. Sends it into the goalie. Freezes play. Good play by Agbe. And she goes hard to the net. We got Paolucci out there with Kazarowski, Cruciano, and the Flanagans. Looks like we've got a rogue neck guard being tossed into the Toronto bench, and we're going to resume play with Palucci on the draw. Palucci tied up at the dot. Palucci, Toronto now with possession, going through their zone, through neutral, gaining the Bell Tire zone, sending it ahead. Cruciano jumping in on the play here. Kazarowski sending it around the boards, finding Flanagan. Flanagan moving it up to Cruciano. Cruciano tipping it out into neutral. Toronto playing it back in momentarily. Flanagan sending it wide to Kazarowski. Kazarowski after boards. Icing wave picked up by Toronto. Toronto behind their own net. Now picked up by Palucci. Palucci just loses it off her stick as she went to take the shot. Toronto plays it out. This is going to be picked up by Cruciano. Cruciano dumping it into Kazarowski. Hewer checking in for Bell Tire here. That puck now picked up by Kazarowski and sent deep into the Toronto zone. Clemens, Agbe jumping back on for Bell Tire. Bowman on D. Clemens shot in, and that is going to be off a pad and recollected by Hewer for a 1-goal lead for Bell Tire with 10:06 on the clock. So Hewer off the shot from Clemens to make it a 1-goal game. All right, as we get going again, we're going to have Bowman and Martin out on D. Hewer, Clemens, Agbe are your forwards. Martin stopping it on the half wall here. Picked up by Hewer. Down in the corner, picked up by Martin. Martin sends it out up to the blue line. Collected by Toronto. Sent back down deep behind the Bell Tire net. 9:49 on the clock. Toronto in the corner. Toronto walking out. Shot in off the pad of Grun and wide. Bowman picking it up in the corner. Shifting it ahead for Agbe. Now recollected by Bowman. Bowman up through neutral. Sending it across to Clemens. Missed her stick. Toronto collected in their own zone. Toronto sending it up top. Going into neutral. Sending it ahead into Bell Tire zone. This is going to be picked up by Flanagan. Flanagan sending it around the boards. Looking for a winger. That's picked up and sent ahead. Palucci on the hunt here. Toronto in neutral. Toronto coming up, pass across, defended by Martin, sent to the corner by Martin, and tied up in the corner. Martin trying to get it up, finds her way up to Palucci. Toronto regains possession at the blue line and continues to hold it. That puck sent down. Now this is going to be picked up by Martin. Martin sending it ahead. And that puck off the half wall, trying to get it to Palucci. Palucci just lost it off her stick. Martin back in the corner, battling as she goes behind the Bell Tire net. Battle collected in by Flanagan as she goes up the half wall. Going to shift it ahead for Kazarowski. That puck back into the zone. Martin gets a deflection off up into the netting. So for Bell Tire, we're going to have Cruciano, Agbe, Hewer, Flanagan, and Bowman. 8:23 on the clock. That puck stuck at the dot. Flanagan driving that forward, trying to find Agbe. Agbe's shot pass is intercepted. Shot in, deflected by Bowman into the netting, who frees play with 8 minutes and 10 seconds. As we restart here, Hewer on the draw. That puck's picked up by Bowman. Bowman's going to shift. Bowman's going to keep it herself. Going to neutral. Send it deep for Agbe to chase. Agbe trying to cut off the Toronto player as she goes back the other way. Toronto moving into the Bell Tire zone. Shot blocked aside by Grun. Blocked by Bowman there. Picked up by Palucci. Palucci sending it up the board, looking for Agbe. Misses her stick, goes to neutral. Collected by Toronto. Toronto shifting ahead now. Bowman sending it back out into neutral. Bell Tire on a line change. Clemens stepping in. Kazarowski on ice. Toronto in the Bell Tire corner, chased down by Flanagan. Centering pass went behind the net, picked up by Clemens on the half wall. She redirects it the opposite way. Collected by Bowman.